And they're into the stretch, and it's Maximum Security off the turn in front. Sharp Samurai has run a big one today, but with 1 furlong to run, Maximum Security has the lead. He's opened up by 2. Sharp Samurai is second, behind Maximum Security, who takes them all the way in the TVG Pacific Classic.
Welcome back to another Breeders' Cup preview here on Racing Rundown. Today we're going to be talking about the Grade 1 Awesome Again at Santa Anita. 5 horses go to the post, and there is a Breeders' Cup win in your in berth on the line for the Classic. And like we do always, we'll get into the 5 horses and talk about them. This is a very one-dimensional race. This is not a very betting-friendly race. I would not advocate betting this race under any circumstances, but this is an important race going into the Breeders' Cup because there are some pretty important Breeders' Cup implications on the line, if to phrase it that way. The first horse in the race is Take the 101. Like I mentioned already, very one-dimensional race. It's the top 2 and everyone else. Take the 101's the longest shot on the board with good reason. He does have 2 wins this year, but both of those are coming at the allowance company. One of them at Santa Anita, so if you feel good about this horse, then that's another positive note to add to it. But this horse has been well beaten in stakes company in some of his starts in his 3 and 4 year old season, coming out of 2 losses in Calbred stakes, and this is definitely much more tougher than a Calbred stake would be. So don't really Take the 101 here. He was a toss for me, and I think it's fairly obvious why. The number 2 horse is Improbable, one of the two Bob Baffert runners, one of the horses in here that definitely this race is very important for him going into the Breeders' Cup. Looking at Improbable, coming into this year, wasn't really sure what we were going to get from him. I've always been a big advocate of Drayden Van Dyke riding this horse. He always runs a big race whenever he has Drayden Van Dyke, and he has shown that with 2 of his starts with Drayden Van Dyke this year. A really good second in the Oaklawn Mile behind Tom's d'Etat, and a win in the Hollywood Gold Cup. That was 3 1/4 lengths, but he was in the lead by as much as 5 and change at one point in the stretch. It was a very good win for him. Coming out of most recently a win in the Whitney over the aforementioned Tom's d'Etat. Tom's d'Etat had a laundry list of excuses in that race, which is why I'm kind of still suspect on him probably, because I don't think coming out of that race he necessarily was the best horse in there, but he did get the win, and he has shown a turnaround in talent this year. So he's definitely talented and should definitely be considered going forward to the Breeders' Cup. The question that's going to be asked with him is, number 1, was he really the best horse in there? I don't think so, but I do think he's of the level of Maximum Security, and I do think he can run a winning race against him. So I am definitely going to consider Improbable very highly going into here. The 3 is, I guess you can call Sleepy Eyes Todd a wild card, coming out of the Charlestown Classic, which is one of 2 wins he has in stakes this year. One of the other stakes win was at Fauner Park earlier this year. So the validity of that definitely does come into question. But the Charlestown Classic was a really impressive race against horses that are stakes caliber horses. Although calling them stakes caliber is probably alluding more towards the Grade 3 side of things. He did beat some horses that have won some big races on their best day, but that's what he is coming into here, a wild card. I think it would be very surprising to see him run a winning race. I think he's very lacking in the talent department. So that's why I didn't necessarily want to use him in here. I don't think he's going to run a winning race against the top 2. If you like him underneath, I'd say go for it. It's a 5-horse field, so it's very likely he's going to run something credible. Probably he's going to be on the board, but how much he's beaten by is really going to be the telling factor in this race. The 4 is Midcourt. Midcourt has danced all the dances in Southern California this year. He has come close to beating Maximum Security. In the San Diego, he gave Maximum Security a really good challenge in the stretch. Almost beat him. Ultimately didn't. But last start, the Pacific Classic, he was 3rd, but he was well beaten 3rd, and it definitely did look like that he didn't want to go the 1.25 miles. That's not a surprise by any means. This is a horse who was beaten by more than 20 combined lengths by Improbable in the Hollywood Gold Cup, which was also a 1.25 miles, and did not run a very good race in the Santa Anita Handicap against very, very questionable company. He is a stakes winner, though. He won the San Pasqual at Santa Anita this year, same distance as this Awesome Again stakes, so he definitely could be one that you could consider. I just don't think that there's any reason he's going to run a winning race against these two. He's lost to both of them convincingly in races, so ultimately I'm against him for that reason. And the final horse is Maximum Security. Obviously, the big horse, the favorite in here. Makes sense why he's coming out of a pretty good win in the Pacific Classic. But like we've said all year, both of us on this show, that Maximum Security to us has been a different horse since he's come back from Jason Service's barn. That doesn't necessarily mean that Maximum Security can't be a top-level competition horse. We just haven't seen it against horses that are of his same talent level. This is the first time this year he's running against a horse that has the same level of talent as him. No disrespect to Midcourt and Higher Power, but those horses are not in the same universe as Maximum Security or any top-level Breeders' Cup Classic contender horse. Improbable is a top-level Breeders' Cup Classic contender, and my favorite phrase to use, this is the acid test for Maximum Security. We've got to see him pull off a win here in my opinion, he's got to win this race in order to be considered for a top position in the Breeders' Cup Classic. If he does win, then he's definitely a horse that could be slated for a win in the Breeders' Cup Classic, but have to win this race, and we have to see how the race plays out before we can say that. Ultimately, in terms of picking for this race, this is a Bob Baffert pick'em. I generally prefer Improbable because his best race of the year did come in the Hollywood Gold Cup at Santa Anita. Drayden Van Dyke's in the saddle. 2 reasons to like Improbable. So I did use him to win, but it's very close. And like I said, it's a pick'em between the 2 Baffert horses in here. And whatever you want to use underneath, I would respect any angle. It's a 5-horse field. Anything can happen. So it's chalky, but that's what you're going to get in a race like this. And that's it for this video. We will see you next time with more previews. Unfortunately, this race is not very deep, and there's not really much of an angle to go outside of the top 2. So we will see you next time. Have a good one, and if you do play this race, good luck.
Length advantage, Higher Power on the outside. Tenfold is starting to rally, but with an 1/8 to go, it's a 1-horse race in the Hollywood Gold Cup. Improbable is all by himself. Higher Power is trying hard. Tenfold is in third, but it is a complete runaway for Improbable and Drayden Van Dyke as they stroll in the Hollywood Gold Cup.